Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube storytelling channel. This is Hua. I'm so happy to have you here with me. Today, I'm going to read Chapter 4 of Hidden Desires. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the story with me.
I'm hoping what I said could make you change your mind, though it doesn't really matter when my hands are tied. I'm trying to walk across the bridges that I've burned. My only way to you is gone, the tide has turned. So give me a light, show me what I need.
I spent the night tossing and turning, asleep nowhere to be found. I watched the sun rise, and I felt as if my heart had turned to stone. I knew that Dawson would be coming today. I could almost feel him nearby. I decided to dress and show him the way I felt without putting on any makeup. I didn't care if he saw me the way I looked, because I needed to show him what I knew. I wanted him to know that it hurt. As if he read my mind, when I walked outside, his car appeared in the driveway. He got out, and the moment he saw me, his smile faded. I walked away, and he followed me to the waters. I stood, hugging myself, and I felt him behind me. He wrapped his arms around me, and as his scent engulfed me, I started to cry. "She told you, didn't she?" he whispered softly. I turned around, and I stepped away from him. My aunt showed me the photo of her. "I have only one question. Are you with me because I look like her?" He let out an uneven, steady breath. "Yes and no." I let out a sob and turned away. Anger shot through me, and I turned back around swiftly. Before I could control my hand, it flew across his cheek. He stood still as I began crying. "I hate you. I can't believe I swallowed up every single goddamn word you said. Did you say those words to her too? Did she eat it up the same way I did? Did you make love to her the same way you did me? I am filled with disgust thinking how you were thinking of her the whole time you were inside of me. I can't believe I allowed myself to love you." He grabbed my arms and pulled me in. I fought him off and he stumbled backward. "I'm so sorry. It started out that way, but I swear to you that it is not anymore. How do you expect me to believe you? How do you expect me to know what is the truth? Didn't I warn you about this? Didn't I warn you that this would happen? That people would say things to hurt us and you had to believe me first. This is what I meant." Shaking my head, I replied, "You hurt me so deeply, Dawson. You lied to me, and to think that this entire time you were with me because I looked like her. It just makes me feel so disgusted. I wish that I had bleach so I could clean the inside of me." "You don't mean that." "I do. Stay away from me." I walked away from him, and he didn't choose to stop me. My parents had left to spend the day together while my aunt went to a photo shoot. It left me alone, and my thoughts were killing me by the hour. Pretty soon, I was feeling sorry for myself and sobbing like someone had died. And then I realized it was me who had died, which made me feel even worse. I decided to get out of the house. I dressed as simply as possible, put on a pair of sunglasses to hide my dark eyes, and a straw hat to hide my messy hair. And I decided to make the best out of the day. I ended up at a small cafe, sipping some strange tea that had my eyes burning. Although it made my sore throat feel better, the smell was too overbearing. I finished my biscuit and was about to get up when I heard a voice behind me. I turned around and found a handsome man with dark hair smiling. He had dark aviators, and when I turned toward him, he removed them to show me a pair of blue eyes that warmed me instantly. "The tea. Do you like it?" he asked. I smiled. Uh, it smelled too much of a strange scent, and it overpowered the drink. I tried to enjoy it. I wouldn't recommend it, though. He nodded and then stood up. "Thank you for the kind review. I'll be sure to let the staff know and change it up." I froze. "Wait, you work here?" He gave me a smile as his eyes sparkled. "No, I own the place." I cringed and knew I was blushing. I turned to grab my purse. "Excuse me while I go hide under a rock." Laughing, he walked toward me. "Please, don't run. There's no rock for you to hide under anyways, at least not here." "Oh, great, that makes me feel a whole lot better." He laughed even harder. "I apologize. I was watching you while you were drinking and you were making all these funny expressions. I had to ask you what your thoughts were. I didn't mean to embarrass you. Embarrass is putting it lightly. You scolded me alive. He extended his hand to me. Brendan Schulz. I took his hand. Jenna Richards. You're American, yet you own a cafe in Paris. Why is that? He gestured for us to sit. I took a seat and he leaned back in his chair. I suddenly felt like I could connect with him. He appeared to be friendly, and I needed friendly after Dawson. I like Paris. It's a city of romance. I could have opened up in America, but not a lot of Americans drink tea. But English people do. Why not open one in England? Laughing, he replied, but England isn't as romantic as Paris. Here you've got the Eiffel Tower, the lights, and the woman. Nothing can go wrong. Besides, I'm a man of many talents, and England is something else. What are you doing here? I'm visiting my aunt. You might know her, Justine Jules. His eyes lit up, and he smiled. You're Justine's niece? Of course, everyone here in Paris knows who Justine is. She's the Angeline Jolie of Paris. You don't look like her, though. So I've been told. I've got my mother's looks. But you're still beautiful. How long are you visiting? Perhaps I could come to take you for a tour of Paris. Shrugging, I replied, I don't know about that. Oh, did I step on toes? Are you seeing someone? I shook my head. Well, then looks like I've struck gold. Brandon and I spent the day touring Paris, and I had to give the guy credit. I saw the city in a whole different light. He was honest with everything he showed to me, and I found him to be fascinating. Everything he said had me hanging on to him, and the way how his eyes would light up when he talked about colors and textures had me even beginning to appreciate art. He was kind enough to send me home later that evening. As he smiled and waved goodbye to me, I promised myself I'd give him the benefit of the doubt and let him heal the pain inside of me. As I walked toward the house, I noticed that the driveway was empty, which meant no one was home. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement and turned to find Dawson making his way toward me. He was wearing all black as if in mourning as he took 3 strides toward me. His eyes were staring after Brandon's car before they fell onto me. Who is he? Dawson asked, against gritted teeth. Ignoring him, I walked around him toward the house. Go home, Dawson. You're not welcome here. He jerked me around and grabbed my shoulders. Why are you punishing me? I admitted I was wrong. I pulled away and almost laughed. Oh, and that makes everything you did okay. I thought you were smarter than that, Dawson. Open your pretty little eyes and look around you. What you did has gutted me open. I'm not interested in being your beck and call so your heart can pretend that I'm your old flame. Dawson shut his eyes and then slowly opened them again. You were never my beck and call. If anything, you were the peace I needed. In the one day we haven't seen each other, and already you're in the arms of another man. You said what I did has gutted you open. Now open your pretty eyes because you're gutting me alive. Laughing, I replied, do you think I care? I purposely want to make you feel as if your heart has been yanked out from underneath you. I turned and walked toward the house. I could feel my heart pounding, but I kept my head straight until I made it safe inside the house, where I finally cried until I was weak.
I'm hoping what I said could make you change your mind, though it doesn't really matter when my hands are tied. I'm trying to walk across the bridges that I've burned. My only way to you is gone, the tide has turned.
They say that love has funny ways of showing up when you least expect it. I suppose that's true. It had been a week since the run-in with Dawson, and he had been smart enough to not come back around. In the time being, Brandon and I started seeing each other. The company helped me return to my old self where laughter came easy and smiles could be found. I was happy again, and as much as I fought the urge to think about Dawson, I remembered his story with a girl who looked just like me. That hardened my heart, and I became stronger. My parents were just happy to have their daughter back. Justine was busy working on a fundraiser that was supporting cancer, and she introduced me to designing table decor. I immediately fell in love and lost myself in the designs. Helping her made me realize my talent, and my mother offered an idea that sparked an interest about opening up a shop for me. I made over 300 little rose cutouts from construction paper. Although exhausted, I was really proud of my work. Not only that, but I also got a date to go with on the night of the party. Justine had bought a black sequin mermaid style dress for herself a few months back, but she was too thin and it was loose around her hips. She took it out of the closet and had me try it on for the party. As soon as I put it on, she was in love. I had never worn anything like that before, and the exposure the dress showed was a bit nerve-wracking, but I decided I was going to walk with my head held tall. She helped curl my hair and dolled me up. I wore a pair of her teardrop earrings, and the finished look had my father wondering if he should just fly me back home. But when my mother gave him an evil look, he pretended to read the newspaper he held. Brandon picked me up at 8 that evening, and he was dumbfounded. He had no words to say, and while my aunt rode ahead in her car, he and I rode together in his limo. He was very handsome with his three-piece tuxedo and his hair brushed back. I felt very lucky. I'm still wondering if this is a dream, Brandon said as we were in the car. Why? He leaned forward and stared at me. I'm stunned that you don't know. You are absolutely the most beautiful creature God has ever made, and I'm sitting in the same car with you. Do I need to say more? Blushing, I looked away. When I returned his gaze, he was all smiles. Thank you. Jenna, I'm not a fool. I know when a woman has been hurt. I see it in your eyes every time you look at me. The hardest thing for a woman to do is to love a good man after she's had a bad one. But I promise you that I'm a good man. I inhaled deeply. I appreciate that, Brandon. I know you're a good man. You've brought me back to me. He reached for my hand and I gave it to him. He brought my knuckles to his lips and kissed lightly. My belly did a few flips and he smiled up at me. Thank you for trusting me. We arrived and I could see cameras and reporters standing before the red carpet. I saw my aunt posing and the crowd going wild for her. I was nervous as Brandon took my hand. With one last smile to me, he opened the door and the noise from the crowd took over. I saw flashes from cameras and I heard reporters asking Brandon who I was. He was posing and smiling as he introduced me as a special lady. After being blinded by the lights, with my cheeks hurting from smiling, we made it through to the main lobby where my aunt took my hand from Brandon. Sorry, Brandon, I'll return her to you shortly, Justine said as she ushered me into the dining room. As soon as we were alone, she threw her arms around me and hugged me tight. When I pulled back, she had tears brimming in her eyes. You look so beautiful and elegant. I had to steal you away for a moment, she said. Are you doing okay? I smiled. Yes, I am. I'm a bit overwhelmed and my cheeks kind of hurt. She laughed. You'll get used to it. Okay, okay. There's a handsome man waiting for you. Go on, go on. I walked out and saw Dawson entering with a tall, leggy blonde on his arm. Before he could lock eyes with me, I ran off and found Brandon conversing with an older man. He saw me and excused himself before taking my hand. We walked to a room where my table decor was visible for the public eye. I had to say I did pretty well. Lots of people complimented the work, and I smiled proudly. There was a band playing soft jazz music and ladies dressed richly. Men were clinking glasses and talking of business. Brandon led me to a table where we sat down, and when I looked up, I saw Dawson making his way in. The blonde was gone, and his eyes were darting everywhere until they landed on me. He froze, and darkness swept over his expression. He started walking toward me until I pulled Brandon to sit down beside me. Again, Dawson paused, and this time I turned my attention to Brandon. I was not prepared for that entrance, I said. He smiled and looked up at me. You look like a pro. Brandon? I looked up to find Dawson walking toward us. Brandon's eyes turned dark as he stood up and took the hand Dawson extended with an awkwardness that made my skin crawl. The two men looked at each other long and hard. Brandon extended his hand to me, and I took it as I stood up. You're courting the precious Jenna, I see, Dawson said as his eyes remained on me. I am, and I appreciate it if you shifted your eyes to me when you spoke to me, Brandon declared. Ignoring Brandon, Dawson said to me, You look like you need a drink. You don't know what I need. If anything, Brandon would take care of me, I replied. I pulled on Brandon's arm, and we walked away to the dance floor. We had just started dancing when I noticed that the blonde had made her way back into Dawson's arms. You know him? Brandon asked. He was a mistake, I said. Yeah, he was a lot of women's mistake. I frowned. How do you know him? He was my ex-girlfriend's mistake. Ouch. I bit my lip. That had to hurt. I ignored the daggers Dawson was shooting at me with his eyes. I'm sorry you had to find out that way that he was also my mistake too. Brandon let out a deep breath. How bad did he hurt you? I looked up at him and I pondered if I should tell him, and then I remembered how honest he was with me about his ex-girlfriend. So I asked him, how long have you known him? I know him long enough to know that I don't want to know him. Did you ever see a woman he dated that looked like me? Brandon narrowed his eyes, and then the corners of his eyes relaxed. The truth hit me hard. He knew, and I had only known this man for a week. Is that why he was with you? Because you reminded him of someone he couldn't have? Brandon asked. I nodded. Yeah, pretty sad, huh? I thought I was in love. Here I was, giving my entire heart and soul to this man, and all he wanted was a piece of something he lost long ago. Brandon pulled me into his arms, and I could smell his cologne. Strong, just like him. He put his lips to my temple. I'm so sorry. I'm not a fan of his, and I hate that he hurt you. I'm sorry you had to know I was in his circle, too. After losing your girlfriend, I'm sure you hate him. Brandon sighed. The past is a lesson for me. I can't hate him any more than I already do. I have forgiven him, and I've moved on. Unfortunately, my ex-girlfriend and I cannot be together anymore. We cannot live in the same house after knowing what she did to me. I just couldn't allow it. I pulled back and nodded my head. I'm so sorry, Brandon. Let's not talk about him anymore. I agreed and laid my head on his shoulder. We danced, letting the music soothe over our pain. Dinner was served, and we ate laughing together. At one point, Brandon tried feeding me a strawberry, and it fell into my cleavage. He paused and stared at me. I only laughed harder as I reached in and took it out, but before I could toss it aside, he grabbed my wrists and took a bite out of the fruit. I only smiled as he licked his lips and commented on how sweet it tasted. Speeches were held after, with Aunt Justine delivering an epic one and had everyone tearing up. I excused myself to the restroom after her speech. As I made my way to the ladies' room, I was yanked violently to a janitor closet where Dawson cornered me with his arms. All this week, I've been wrecking my brain about who that man in the car was, and it turns out to be Brandon. Why are you with him? Dawson asked. I pushed him away and planted my hands on my hips. Stay away from me, Dawson. You and I are no longer together. You broke me the moment I knew why you were with me. Stop hurting people. It's going to end up with you being alone and miserable. I turned to go, and he called out my name softly. I ignored him and made my way out the door. The rest of the night, I made sure I was literally glued to Brandon's arm. Nothing could come between us. We were dancing, laughing, and drinking as if nothing could stop us. Brandon's laughter and words relaxed me more than I thought it would. I enjoyed his company, and pretty soon the wine he kept giving me caught up to me. I felt my body reflexes slow and my vision blur. The last thing I remembered was Dawson walking toward me with dark eyes.
Say something like you love me and make my day, like you always do, like you always do. Hold my hand and look me in the eyes so I can tell you how I feel.
I woke, recognizing the silk materials on the bed. When I turned, I found Dawson's dark eyes on me. My heart sank, and I got up to find I was wearing his robe. I pulled the belt tighter around me and looked around the room. The dress I was wearing yesterday was on the ground, as were my heels. My mind was boggled, and I had no idea what had happened. Why am I here? Where's Brandon? I asked. Dawson got out of bed and came toward me. He's at home recovering from a head injury. What? I cried. Did you hurt him? Of course I did. After he tried to rape you. I froze and watched as Dawson stared at me with heavy eyes. With shaking hands, I reached for the chair behind me and sat down. He came to me and got down on his knees. He took my hands and looked into my eyes gently. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about Heather. It was never my intention to hurt you. It may have started out because you looked like her, but the more I spent time with you, the more I realized you were nothing like her. I felt a tear escape. He caught it. What happened last night? You were dancing and having fun. He kept giving you wine. You know you don't hold your liquor well. You were on the dance floor when you fell. I came toward you and he had you in his arms. Your aunt was following you both out to his limo. She returned to get your purse, and he tried to fondle you when you were alone with him. You were trying to say no, but you were groggy and unfocused. He tore your dress, and I came at him. Your aunt interrupted us when I was beating the crap out of him. I covered my face with my hands and started sobbing. I felt strong arms pull me in, and I let him hold me. My body felt robbed, and I couldn't stop crying. He pulled away and wiped my tears. Are you going to be okay? I swear if he had done more, I'd have ripped him a new gut. Why am I here? Your aunt decided to have you here because she didn't want your parents to know. She told them you were sleeping over with her friends. She wants to talk to you when you're up and ready. I hugged my knees. I feel so stupid. I thought he really liked me. And then I looked up at him. He said you were his ex-girlfriend's mistake. Dawson raised an eyebrow. And you believed him? I shrugged. I don't know what to believe anymore. He rubbed my cheeks with his fingers. I have never taken any of his woman. He's upset with me because I bought out his company and bankrupted his family. He touched my cheeks one last time and moved to sit on the bed. His parents had gotten divorced and they were falling under. I came in and I bought out his company. His parents filed for bankruptcy and he didn't get the business as his father had planned. Looking at him and looking at me, it's an insult to say I would even choose the same kind of woman he already had. I let my knees down. That's why he's mad at you? Do you think he sought me out? I'm sure he did. He knew he couldn't get to me, so he decided to get back at someone I love. His words made me ache. Love? You love me? Dawson looked up at me and his shoulders sagged. I'm trying not to, because you obviously hate me right now, but I can't help it. I didn't know what to say, so I simply just stared. And then he reached out and touched my face, and the eyes that looked back at me were filled with a genuine kindness that I almost felt dizzy. Why must you fight me? Why must you run from me? I've done all I can to tell you that people will say anything they want to about me to make you hate me. I come with a history that I'm not proud of, but it shouldn't be the reason why you run from me. I took a deep breath. You're a bomb, Dawson. Everything about you frightens me. You've lived a very wild life, and all I know is how to make coffee in the morning. How am I supposed to suddenly turn my entire life around for you? Give me some credit here because the life you live is something I've never lived before. You're asking a lot out of me, but I love you. Isn't that enough to want to be with me? I watched as he pulled me closer to him, and the tears I held inside rolled down my cheeks. He caught them and wiped them away. I love you, Jenna. I haven't loved anyone since her, he whispered. Why did you choose me in the first place? He let out a deep breath. Because you look like her. The first time I saw you, I thought I saw a ghost. You had the same body, the same walk, the same of everything. You don't understand, Jenna. She died because I couldn't save her. I still carry that guilt with me. I just wanted closure. So you pretended to court me to get rid of your guilt. How is that supposed to bring you closure? Getting rid of one guilt while creating a new one. Does that make everything you did to me okay? He shook his head. No, it doesn't. And I don't blame you for hating me. But at the moment, all I wanted was to feel better. I hadn't had a good day since she died. And when you came into my life, I just suddenly wanted to be better. And then I realized you were nothing like her. And it was you who was making me better. And that was when my purpose shifted. And I wanted you for you. I was scared. And that's why I warned you about my history. Your Aunt Justine probably was going to tell you no matter what. And I was afraid of the outcome. I sought her out. He shot his head up. What? I sought her out. I wanted to know why you were speaking in riddles about your life. I had to know. She'd forgotten about Heather, and when she showed me the photograph, I about died. She was the exact duplicate of me. I leaned forward. Do you know how much it hurt me, knowing you probably made love to me only because I looked like someone you used to love? Knowing how I may never measure up to her? Do you understand the power you hold over me? He took my wrists and held them together. Do you understand the power you hold over me? I didn't answer as he stared at me, waiting for any kind of reaction. I tried to remove my wrists, but he held on tight. Let me go, I ordered. Or what? He asked without any fear. Or, or I'll scream. A smile spread across his face. We're in the middle of nowhere, sweetheart. Scream all you want. I tore my hands from him and shot to my feet. I turned around to face him. I'm done talking to you. Take me home. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Chapter 4. Chapter 5 will be up shortly.
I'm hoping what I